motion to approve as written unless somebody has an addition or addendum or anything like that.
I move to approve.
Second,
Second.
all in favor?
I have.
Any opposed? And you will consider them approved. Then we have an old member that is now becoming a new member that we've got to swear in. Oh, right, Monica?
Yes, and I need to get this paperwork, so. Give me just a second on it.
Okay, well, while she's getting that, do we have any public comment? Gary? I have no. For her to come back. And
I'm sorry.
I guess when Bob said old member, he meant me. I didn't think he meant it first.
He meant prior.
the minute that was out of my mouth, I thought, I'm gonna hear about it.
When that happens. Okay, do you wanna read that for him? To him?
So I have a copy of that.
Oh,
Do you want me to read it?
yes, as long as we can witness.
I, Jim Woodward, do solemnly swear or affirm that I will support the Constitution of the United States, the Constitution of the State of Colorado, and the Charter and ordinances of the City of Englewood, and that I will do the best of my ability faithfully perform the duties of office as a member of the Englewood Employee Pension Plan Board during my continuance therein.
Yep, that works. You just sign. We're all witnesses.
Is well.
And then there's another one. The rules of, I think it's, that one's for you.
Mhm.
And that one I need the back of, I believe.
Okay.
Get the signature on the back. That and the other. That looks like an extra copy. I'll take those. Oh, that's Keith's. So we'll take that.
This is what I just handed you.
No, this is actually Keith's. That's a checklist. And I can send this to you electronically. So you have it for your records. I just need, I need your signature on the back of that. Oh, wait, I'm sorry, I have it. Yes, I have it. So let me get that one back. You did just sign it. Yeah, you're good.
Yeah.
I gave you two. I'm so sorry. Okay, you're set. We're good here.
And sign my first name on that one.
No, that's okay. You signed the second one, and that's for you.
Get a copy of the other one.
I can give you a copy.
Oh,
You should have it electronically, but I'll make you a copy of this.
oh, thank you.
Okay. I'm sorry, we can move on.
Okay. If it would be pleasing to everybody, I would like to move item 8, the COLA request for Old Tire Fire up to this point. And then that would get the bulk of our meeting out of the way before and if anybody has to leave or get tied up, and we can then fit in the rest of the meeting. Is that okay with everybody? Okay, then let's discuss item 8, the COLA request. I believe Kevin and some of the board members met, correct?
Yeah, after the last board meeting, Steve and the expert and I met, discussed about some options for either a COLA or a separate payment that would have been outside of the pension plan. And then I think, Steve, you were gonna try to contact some of the members and see what you wanted to ask for.
Steve Knoll, I'm an old hire police pension guy. So Monica provided me a list of all the retirees. Some of them are members, some of them were spousal, got spousal benefits, which was 50%. There's 29 people on that list. The only method I had of contacting them, unfortunately, was email addresses. And I didn't have that for everybody, but I did reach out to those that I had an email address for. And I actually spoke to or emailed back and forth with maybe about 7 or 8 people. I didn't get a lot of feedback from them about what they might be looking for, other than the fact that they were just happy that they hadn't been forgotten and that somebody was trying to watch out for them, trying to get something for them. Because the last increase that the police pension, the old hire police pension, pensioners had was, and Monica gave me this information too, was January 1st of 01, so 24 years ago. And that was $100 a month in the form of I guess a stipend, for lack of a better word. That did not go through FPPA. That was simply done by the city and bypassed FPPA. When we talk about a COLA, I talked at length to a number of these people. George and I talked about it, met with Kevin. We're in agreement, I think, with Kevin that it would be a lot easier and a lot less complicated if we were to move forward with some type of stipend increase as opposed to a cost of living increase. COLAs are typically in the form of percentages. One of these spousal members is getting a whopping $416 a month. So if we were to give her a 5% raise, that would be $20. And I don't, maybe it'd be a big deal to her. I don't know, but
I think we could do better than that.
yeah, I would hope that we can do better than that. So what we would like to do is propose to the board a vote to move forward on this by putting this on a city council agenda for their consideration.
Are they still getting that $100 a month
Yes,
stipend?
yes.
That's continued.
So, and technically that number I just gave you, the $416.25, that probably doesn't include that $100. Because this is what they're getting just for a PPA. Anything you wanna say?
No, I think you're absolutely right. Plus, you have to take into account some of these people with the 400 and 800 are so old. They would probably get one increase, maybe two tops. Like you say, $20, live another year and she gets another $20, where a stipend could help them out right now. That's the way I look at it. I was amazed we had that many people still alive, to be honest with you. Haven't heard some of these names in 20 years.
May not be around here, but Kevin, do you have any response to that? Do you have any idea what our financial obligation would be? How that would affect city budget, or is there anything headwinds that we're gonna have to deal with on that?
Probably. Are you proposing another monthly increase like something similar to the last one? Like another $100 a month, or do you?
I'd like to see it a little higher than that, but yeah.
Okay.
I don't really wanna throw out a number because I just don't. I mean, like I said, I think some of these people would be happy for anything, but, if I were to throw out a number, I mean, I think so much of this is dependent on the city's budget and, you know, we quite honestly don't have any leverage in this situation to say, we've gotta have this or you've gotta do that. We just don't have that leverage. And everybody knows that, so.
So I do have a question. Was there a point in time where you got a one-time, instead of monthly, got a lump sum?
Not that I'm aware
Oh,
of.
no, never.
Never.
And I've been on the board for 22 years, so. I remember you when you were mayor.
Wow.
So, no,
Okay.
there was that one increase, like Steve says, for $100 and.
And I suppose that if there were to be an increase, it could be structured that way too, as opposed to a monthly, but.
Well, I mean, it is a tough budget year, but 24 years since your last increase is a long time.
That is a long time, and I think that, in my opinion, we as city council need to prioritize that. So. So do we know what all of them are making? I'm assuming some of them that. Well, that would be spousal benefits, correct?
Yeah, I mean, I have the list right here and it ranges anywhere from the very lowest, which is a spouse of $416 a month to, Gary, where are you on here? I'm right here before this. Yeah, $4,927. I'm not saying that's scary, but I'm just saying that's the highest. But most of them are in the $1,000, $2,000, $3,000 range. Like I said, there's a few of them that are very, very low. There's one at 416, one at 419, one at 586. And most of those are spouses, not members. I mean, you're welcome to look at this list if you want to.
Okay.
I'm actually gonna make some copies
Okay.
so we can have,
Is this firefighters and police
There
or
are two plans.
this is just police.
just police?
Yes.
Would it work any sense to take an average number? I mean, 400 is the low one. The other one was the high. And average those out and come up with a set number one for everyone?
As a percentage or as a,
Well, I'm just trying to think of,
You want an average or a median, you know, the
Yeah.
median would be half above and half below that point. And an average, I don't know if it would be that much different, but what I have two questions that just struck me. We were looking at police now. Did that include the old line fire too, or is there more of those? Maybe Kevin can't.
There are 32 full-hire fire members,
And
9.
29.
old hire police, right? But we're looking,
Very similar range.
yeah, so we're looking at below 60 total.
Yeah.
Between 50 and 60, okay.
But if I may, and I'm not trying to pick on the firemen here, although cops and firemen don't really get along very well. They're not here. They're not asking you for anything.
Yeah,
I've been in communication with their representatives and, they know what we're doing. And
but if it happens, they're not invested in it, it sounds.
I can't explain why that is. I'm just saying, you know,
Yeah.
if city council wants to include them in this, that's great, but I don't know what they would be asking for. I have no idea. So,
So I think we have a firefighter on Zoom. You can still hear this, but you can't,
Yes, I can hear you.
yeah, Patel.
Yeah, I can hear you. You
I
just
guess
can't.
what I was trying to get at was to have some sort of base number for council to have a starting point, because
Well,
I would assume they will come back.
but I think there's another issue here, and like, in my pension, my husband he has spousal benefits, so we get less than he would have got, but if something happens to my husband, I will get 55%. So the spouses, and I think, so I don't know that we should compare both of them together. Does that, I'm asking you, Steve, does that make sense?
In 2001, they gave members $100 a month and beneficiaries 50. So they did do it different.
Okay.
I don't know. You want to do that? Same?
Well, I like
I'd
the
have to think
idea of
about
the
that.
stipend because I take into account the number of people and more importantly than anything else, the ages you have to consider. You have, and I don't even have to look at this, out of the 20, you're going to have 10, at least 10 that are close to 80 and between 80 and 90. So to put a COLA, like Steve says, of 3%, for someone like that gives them $20 a month for maybe 1 year, 1.5 years, it's a nice thing to be recognized and finally be heard. But as far as making an impact financially in any way, no.
No, I agree with you there. What I was trying to say was that to have a base, to start with a base number. So in the future, because this is, I assume, will have to be approved every year when cons should. There is a number, and even if they apply a COLA to it or whatever, or however they do it, it's still a stipend, but it gets that. The person that's getting $400 benefit, it will bring her up to get more, in the people that are getting 4,000 or whatever it was would obviously be somewhat lower, but it's still, it seems, I'm just guessing that council will come back and recommend that this board come up with some sort of proposal as to how to do it.
Right. Right. I do have a question, Monica. If there's any way to get sound for Richard Patel, because he is the firefighters representative.
Did you just call into someone's cell phone? I mean, he can call into mine. I'm trying, can you not hear me now? I'm trying to,
There you are.
oh, you can hear me now.
Cause I'm muted.
Oh, so I'm on.
Can at least hear a scratchy voice.
So you can hear me though.
Yes, we can hear you. You
Oh,
might have
good.
to speak a tiny bit louder.
You're in.
Okay, how's that? Can you hear me okay? Still can't hear me?
I think.
I was muted, so now,
Right.
there we go. Can you hear us?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, good. Oh, wow. I think I figured out the problem. It was me.
Uh-huh.
Okay,
So
so.
knew that.
Right.
Okay, so what is the question? I would say, in answer to what Steve said, was we have been in touch with Steve. And we've been getting, well, I've been getting some of his emails, myself and Keith Lockwood. We were not aware there was a meeting that he had with Kevin. We knew, at least I wasn't. And I feel like, you're implying that we're just riding on the coattails of the police. And that was not my impression of what's going on. But, you know, like I say, we have not stepped forward like Steve has for sure. But just sort of riding along to see what happens with what the police is doing. And trying to stay in touch that way. Does that make sense?
The initial request was brought forward by the Ohio Police.
Correct. Yeah,
So Kevin and I did say at some point, this should also affect fire. So yeah, in some ways, yeah, you are kind of riding on the coattails.
Okay,
But I do have a similar list for fire.
yes.
I guess, Dick, and I didn't mean to imply that, but I guess, you know, I've been in contact with Keith a couple of times, just talked to him briefly on the phone. I don't think you and I ever talked, but I traded emails back and forth with you. But I never got an indication from either of you that exactly what you were trying to accomplish. So I didn't know if you were looking to do the same thing that we were looking to do or something different. And I don't understand your plan as well as I understand my plan. So I didn't want to, you know, lump them together because they are two different entities. So, but I think both plans are in the same boat. Absolutely. I don't know when the last time you guys got an increase, but.
Yeah, and I don't know that either. And I'm not familiar with your plan, Steve. As you're not familiar with ours, but we were just, I guess, kind of, I don't know if they're similar enough that we were just hoping to sort of, you know, lump in and do the same sort of thing that the police are doing. That was our intent. Now, if that's not working, you know, we need to get more involved. And I'm not really sure. Yeah, again, I just think going back to it, I just think that we were hoping to get a similar outcome as police. In summary. Does that make sense? Hello, I can't hear anybody.
It's actually coming through here rather than there.
What were you thinking about, a percentage increase COLA, or were you thinking about a stipend type of thing?
Well, I don't know that we were thinking about anything because I haven't seen any numbers of what that looks like. A COLA, I agree, a COLA does not really make sense for people, at the lower end of the, the pension. The, percentage just doesn't make sense. So to me, a stipend makes more sense. And I agree with what everybody has said that, whether that's 50, 100 or whatever dollars a month, that's much better than a 5% COLA to somebody making $400 a month. That's $20. That's, that hardly buys you a cup of coffee anymore. So I think we were looking at the same thing police is, and again, having not been in a lot of contact, I know you've been talking to Keith a little bit, but a stipend makes way more sense than a COLA especially for the lower end of the pension people.
They are police.
Roughly.
I would suggest that we move forward with getting this before council. Now, do we want to come to some sort of agreement on what to ask for? Or Kevin, what's the city budget like? I mean, every time I negotiated with the city, we were broke. And
True statement.
so, I'm just wondering, what kind of, and maybe Rita can tell us what the mood is of council too.
Well, I think that we need to make a decision for this board to move forward with it because we are getting to the point that council's gonna make a decision. Council is going to have to make some choices regardless of what this board decides. And I feel like this should be one of the priorities that city council makes. But if you all don't make a recommendation this month, it won't get in 2026.
See, and that's my feeling, my point too, that we need to at least get this before council. Whether we come up with a number or not is not as important, but we have to put the issue in their bailiwick.
I think we do have to come up with some sort of figure because council is already aware that we're looking at this.
Yeah.
But if we don't have a figure that you all can move and second, then council will not decide.
Okay.
I mean, you can always go back to council later if there needs to be more discussion, but you're right, it's gonna delay it past the normal budget cycle.
Well, I'm open to discussion, but I think that we need to move right now to put this on their agenda. If let's say we did 100 for each member of the plans, that would commit the city to about $50,000 or $60,000 a month, roughly. Am I correct?
For the year, it'd be about 74,000, 100 months, whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Is that's
That's
both
both
plans combined?
And that's not a small figure, but it's not
So
immense either.
I kind of would like to see at least 200 a month.
That's what I was.
Because, I mean, in the overall scheme of the budget, 100, that's more like $150,000, correct, Kevin?
Yeah.
But correct me if my math is wrong, 29 members at $200 a month. This is just police, comes out to 69,600. So if you essentially double that approximately, yeah, we're talking about 140 to 150,000 dollars.
Yep.
And to be honest with you, that's the number, I've been reluctant to throw out a number, but that's the number that I had in my head. That I think would have a meaningful impact for those people, that are at the bottom of this list.
And then I have a question, Kevin, does it make sense to make just a yearly payment versus paying every month? Or is it all set up by the computer and it doesn't take that much more work?
It really doesn't take that much more work. But I think one of mentioned that maybe getting it early in the year might benefit some of them that might not be there around at the end of the year.
Good point.
Sad, but true.
Yeah, I don't really want to say it that way. I think that's what you were thinking.
I mean, discussion, I'm open. I would say, a lump sum by the end of January for everybody that's in the plan. And $200 a month, so that would be $2,400 lump sum. And then we give council a figure to shoot at that it can negotiate around that if they need to. And I agree, Rita, I think we should go higher than lower. And, do you want me to formulate a motion that we submit to council a request for $200 a month payable in lump sum early in the year in 2026 for both old line pensioners, both old line clans.
Police and fire.
If that's a motion, I second it.
Okay, and then I agree with that, but I think we should have you weigh in and would that work for you all?
Mr. Chairman, as the member of the fire old hire pension, I totally agree and appreciate everything that you're doing. And I'm on board 100%.
Thank you.
So I have a second. I will say that I made the motion, although it's not in Bob's rule of order, but we don't.
Close enough.
You are Bob.
Anyway, do I have any other discussion?
So what we're looking at a $2,400 stipend
Stipend.
by the end of January of 2026.
26, and then, as I understand it, I want to make this clear, that we would do this again for 2027. Rather than say that this continues until the members drop out.
Yeah, that way if we need to increase it.
Yeah, we
We
can
can't.
adjust it or.
Right, and plus you really can't indebt future councils, so this could be
This,
accepted for this year and we do have to have it in the record, don't we, Kevin, so that it would come up again in the agenda?
Yes, yes. And after this first year, it's probably gonna need to be a little bit outside of the regular budget process, just because of where we're at. It can still happen in time for January. And then it can be part of the normal budget discussion that each council has every year.
Okay.
okay,
I'm guessing we should have it on this board also, probably in August, so we can make the recommendation to council.
either May or August, definitely. In fact, I would almost say May.
I would agree with May.
Mhm.
And then we would fit into the regular
These
budget
things
cycle.
don't always put them.
Mr.
Noted.
Chairman, point of clarification.
Yeah,
So the $200 is for every member, spouses, surviving spouses, as well as surviving members, correct?
right. Every member
Okay.
that's listed on the pension.
Okay,
On the-
thank you. I just wanted to
And
be
so
clear on that.
There would be no adjustment. If you're in the pension, then you would get the stipend next
Copy
year.
that, sir. Thank you.
Do I have a call for the vote?
I'll call for the vote.
Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Let's move forward with it, Kevin.
In the draft communication for council, so when we can get it on the. And then we'll, it'd be nice if some of you guys would show up for that probably, help
Yeah.
convince them.
Yeah.
We'll let you know when it is. It'll be a little bit later in your process.
Will you let me know so I can
Yeah.
get the invitation? Yeah.
I'll certainly be there.
Nice.
The ordinances go in October, but the public hearing is the 15th.
Oh, September.
September. So this probably needed to put that on this process. But it still happens, so it happens in early. 26.
So Monica, you have that on the agenda for next May,
Yes, sir.
and we're in line, and let's pass these sheets back to Monica for shredding or whatever. Okay.
Yeah, because you have it. You can keep it.
Okay, now we are back to our regular agenda. GRS is up with a short.
Yeah. Just a small little presentation today, so, I think I missed a couple of you down there if you'd like to follow along. So down. So last time we brought you this is just the non-emergency employees retirement plan, so this will not cover the Iowa of the old hire plans, just to let you all know. But last time we came to you all with the January 1, 2025 results. That gave us a little bit of the where we were, where we are. Now this is just a quick overview on where we're heading. And the only reason I say quick is because as we can see on the very first slide here, we are maintaining our path forward. And that is really that we are still expected to hit that target of 100% funded in 2035. So that's 10 years from now, because as we remember in 2020, we started with that 15-year layered amortization base. So that one's down to a 10-year amortization period at this point in time, as well as our newest base this year, which was a small gain on the plan, is also over a 10-year period. So we are expected to reach that full funding in our 10-year period. We can see there's a little bit of a small downward trajectory at the very beginning here. You're going to see that. So that's going to be, if we look at our green line there, that's really where we are now. The red line below it is just showing if we had that 2024 rate of return in our projections last year, that we're on basically the exact same track with our valuation results of last year. But if we look at that green line, the reason we're seeing a small downward trend in the next couple of years is just because we are going to recognize that 2022 loss on the investment return over the next couple of years and that actuarial value of assets. So we are going to see that impact to the funded ratio in the short term, but in the long term, due to your funding policy, we are still expecting to stay on track in the long term, barring any severely adverse experience. Again, these are our expectations and things don't always go to expected, but so far we've been staying on that really good path. So if we move on to slide number 3 here, this is another look. So instead of looking at that funded ratio, seeing how we're expecting that employer contribution rate to change moving forward, the plan and the city has committed to contributing at the actuarial determined contribution rate. So that's going to be your normal cost, which we expect to be contributed each and every year. That's the cost of a member accruing their benefit each year. So that's the amount we want to pay in each year, is to contribute to those members accruing those benefits as they're accruing those benefits. Then we have the amortization of the unfunded liability. And that is going to be that 10-year amortization of our current unfunded over time. And then we have that little bit for admin expenses and whatnot that is included in there. As we can see, we're seeing that increase in the short term. That first little tick up is again going to be due to those 2022 investment losses that we're still recognizing in actuarial value of assets. And then the other increase over time is the fact that that very first base in that unfunded liability that we established is a larger base than the rest of our gains and losses. So it was about 10.5 million over time. And so what we're seeing is as some of our smaller gains and losses are dropping off over time, and we're recognizing still needing to pay off that initial large base, is that we're going to see that expectation of a small uptick in the employer's contribution rate overall. And then finally, we will drop off. You can see that that's happening as we're reaching that full funding point. And that brings us down to expecting that the contribution rate will just come down to our normal cost rate, which is about 7% of pay at the moment, is that expectation where it ends. So that's a little bit of where we are, where we were. As we can see, there was an improvement. If we look at that purple line coming down to the green line, that we can see those gains, both due to investment gains as well as some liability gains, brought that employer contribution rate down. I believe it was 23% down to a 20% as of January 1, 2025. So we did see some of that improvement year over year, both on the assets and their liabilities. And that'll immediately impact. And then on slide 4, just really giving you the same image. We can see that it follows the same path as instead of as a percentage of your payroll. This is our expectation of what those contributions look like in dollar amount. Not much to expand on there, but if you have any questions, I can expand. But really same story as a percentage of payroll, but just to give you a better idea of exactly what that is as a dollar amount. And then finally, we just had a couple of little sensitivity scenarios, and that's just to say things don't always come out as we expect. In this case, we're looking at what if the investment returns are not as we expected. So that's on our very last slide. As a funded ratio, from a funded ratio point of view, and we can see our top line there, the green line is what if our investment returns greatly exceed our current assumption at 6%. And you'll see we get there a little bit faster, but we're still trending just to that 100% ratio over time. And then we would stay right around 100% funded as we're just contributing that normal cost moving forward. The purple line is where we currently are. That's our expectations based on our 6% return. And then the red line, as we can see, if over the next 10, 20 years, if we only expect the investments to return 0%, we're still expected, although the path to get there is significantly slower. And what we'll see on the next page as well is it will require more contributions to do so. And the main reason is due to your funding policy and the fact that the city is committed to contributing at that actuarial determined contribution rate. Because of that, we still expect to get to that 100% funded ratio within 10 years. However, if we get to our very last graph here, what we're going to see is in that negative scenario and our pessimistic scenario of really poor, consistent returns, which is unlikely because we have a beautiful, beautiful team right here. And she would never do that to you. So, but in the case that we look at those returns, we would see that they put a lot of pressure on the city for that contribution rate, and we would see a pretty big increase in what we would expect the city to need to contribute in order to stay on that path moving forward. So just giving us a little idea of where we are and also why this year funding policy is really strong and also really important to maintain to stay on track for those goals for the plan.
Questions, comments? Thank you. I think that pretty much explains it.
And I'd say in the future too, if there's any other stress testing scenarios, like we're just looking at investment returns, if there's other concerns, I know sometimes with, like, we assume all of these projections, we assume that the membership population will stay stable. So we assume when people terminate, retire, et cetera, that they'll be replaced with new hires. And I'm not sure if that's always the case in our, so if that is something I think would be of interest to see and what kind of stress that puts, because as well as, like, we're looking at the employer contribution rate is as a percentage of payroll. If you have less members, you're going to have lower payroll, and therefore that contribution amount is going to be a little bit higher as well on that basis. So that's something that we could also look at. Any of those scenarios would be of interest in the future. So just something to think about. That is trouble with this plan. I don't know that we've seen a stable population at all points in time. We have over the last couple of years. I don't know where we are this year, but I think the last couple of years in our evaluation, we've seen it about stable, but there were a few years where we saw a decline in the population, so.
Well, I'm actually shocked at how low our enrollment rate was for a while. And our retirement rate was through the roof at the time that I retired, so just something to think about. Yeah.
We actually had 3 new members last quarter, but only 1 new member this quarter. Yeah.
Okay. Now to Innovest, the moment we've all been waiting.
Great. Well, I'm going to kick us off, and I wanted to introduce you to a colleague, Sydney Engelman. Sydney is a manager at Innovest, has done a lot of the back office of this plan, and I'm really excited that she's going to be coming with me to these meetings and participating in the front. Okay. So I'm going to start, and I'll take you to page. I'll take you to page 3, and would love to invite everyone to attend the Colorado Public Plan Coalition annual conference. It's a great conference this later in August in Beaver Creek. It's mainly defined contribution focused, but there are some defined benefit things in there too. So it's a great conference, and would love to have you if you're interested in attending.
It is a great conference.
It's Monica goes and learns a ton every year. I know. I'll take you forward to page 6, just to remind you of some small changes that we made earlier this year. We added the Brookfield Infrastructure Income Fund, if you remember, in April, increasing our other real assets, which we think is a great opportunity as we look forward. And then we did a fund replacement of the Goldman Sachs with the replace the IMGP Alternative Strategies Fund in February for performance and asset flow issues. Sydney's going to jump into performance, but I'll highlight some of the things on page 7. It's just been a tremendous year, 1 year, 3 year, 5 year. This plan has averaged over the last 5 years 9.6%. And remember, our goal is 6%. So just a tremendous run. If you go back, we started managing this portfolio, I think, in 2002, but we have performance numbers in our system from 2007. So from 2007 to 2025, cumulatively, the plan is up about 280%. And then putting that into a picture is on page 8, because this ultimately is what we're aiming to do, is to have our investments grow faster than the money we're taking out. So the blue line represents the net amount invested, where the ending market value is the green mountain chart. So started back in 2007. Again, we go back further than that, but about 28 million. We've paid out 21 million in pension payments. But markets have increased by 36 million over that time. So this is why we invest, and it's been very successful. Just to summarize, page 9, you wouldn't know that this up 10.9% in U.S. stocks was a very tumultuous period. Remember in April, we saw a huge decline. Markets were down close to 20%, but ended up plus 10 in the amount of a single quarter. So a lot of volatility, but the history books won't remember it maybe because we're just looking at quarterly returns. A couple of trends to look at. International stocks have been a tremendous place to be invested, and this moved relatively quickly. Some of this return is based on the fact that the US dollar weakened, but still this moved very quickly and probably caught many by surprise because all of the tariff talk and the expectation that international markets would struggle, but they've done tremendously well. Page 10, just a couple of little things to highlight here. On the positive side, corporate profits have been solid. The labor market numbers have been very controversial in recent weeks. However, still kind of a 4% unemployment rate is still relatively strong. That kind of moves into the consumer sentiment numbers, which have increased dramatically. People feel good. Retail sales are strong. People feel good about the economy, feel good about keeping their jobs, and as a result, are spending. Inflation numbers came out today, very much in line with June. And so no big surprises there. So the question is, are the tariff increases really, and the inflation expectations because of that really come to fruition? That's what kind of the Fed has been saying. They want to see the tariff numbers and the inflation numbers come out before they start cutting rates. But I think they're getting, they're losing excuses to start cutting rates. But there's a lot of diversion, there's a lot of differences on what the markets believe. Markets think we're going to have two rate cuts this year, where the Fed Open Market Committee members are more split on that. As we think about risks, global tensions are obviously concerning with the wars that we have in effect right now. Equity valuations are high. Actually, you can see that on page 11 on the bottom left-hand side. The US markets in particular are high, and why that's concerning is when valuations are low, the forward expectation for performance is a lot higher, but when valuations are high, expectations are more mixed. We've been saying valuations are high for quite some time, and they've been getting more expensive, and a lot of that is driven by those large cap tech names, in particular NVIDIA and Microsoft. I'll take you forward to page 12. This upper right-hand side of this chart represents some of what I was talking about, how markets expect more rate cuts than the Fed is expecting. So we'll see who actually wins in that argument. And then page 13 is just demonstrating that markets are cyclical. So just when you think you've got it pegged that only US stocks are going to outperform forever, which it feels like it's been recently, you see international come back in a big way. And that's why we believe we have to be diversified. Diversification is our best tool to control volatility. And it's demonstrated in this chart, in these charts on page 13. Part of the reason on page 14 that many are expecting or think that valuations maybe don't matter as much is because AI or artificial intelligence has been, productivity has been growing dramatically because of that. Adoption has grown, and many people are saying that could potentially be kind of the third industrial revolution. We had, obviously the first one, and then we had internet. And now we have AI. So we'll see, but there's a lot of productivity benefits that companies are reaping all over the globe. The next few pages are just a summary of the one big beautiful bill provisions that were recently adopted and put into place for your reading enjoyment. And page 18 is, I think, an interesting chart too, because what it essentially looks at, what are the potential economic effects of this bill in different areas. And as you could probably imagine, it pretty much goes party line that Republicans think this bill is the best thing that ever happened. Democrats believe it's the worst thing that ever happened, and probably the truth is somewhere in the middle. Page 19 shows a heat map. So the brighter the red, the worse the performance. The brighter the green, the better the performance. So lots of green on this, just a little bit of red in the year to date on the small cap side. But especially in the quarter, large cap growth has been one of the dominant places to be. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Sydney, and she's going to walk us through a little bit of the investment performance.
Yes. We can skip over to page 25, looking at the scorecard. Overall, we can see a sea of green, which is great. Lots of no concerns. A couple new items this quarter. Harbor small cap growth under people has a new minor concern. There was a management change and an analyst left with that manager. Harbor has a huge team, it's 16 team members. So we're not super concerned with the departures, but we always like to note it just in case, we're going to monitor philosophy and process and what they're doing behind the scenes and make sure performance isn't impacted negatively from those changes. But overall, just something to monitor. No recommendations for change there. American Funds Euro-Pacific Growth has had a performance concern for a little bit now. We'll walk through it a little bit when we get to the table of returns performance pages. They're just kind of run of the mill. It's not so horrible that we feel like we need to make a change, but it's not great either. We can kind of walk through all of that, and hopefully that turns around soon, given how well international markets have been doing and their allocations there. Principal U.S. property account has had an organizational concern for some time, just for some upper C-suite management changes. We always note those as minor concerns, but we're not super concerned. That should fall off in a quarter or two here. And then their asset-based concern did fall off this quarter, which is great. Their redemption queue, they paid off their redemption queue. The gate has been lifted. So that asset-based concern is no longer relevant. That gate could always come back down. They do have the right there. But for now, that concern has come off. Tortoise Energy Infrastructure, their organizational concern they have a new or has been taken off. Apologies. They're a CEO we changed over a year ago at this point, and we're confident in that new management change there. So that's a positive. And then Cliffwater, we probably discussed it last quarter. They just had an organization concern, a new minor concern there. They had a couple new firms come in and buy some minority stakes. Overall, we think that's hopefully a positive, give some new growth, resources to the firm, but we'll continue to monitor that moving forward. So no recommendations for change, which is great. Moving on to performance, page 26. We continue to see, Harbor Capital Appreciation is our large cap growth fund. So that's where we see a lot of those big tech names. We just continue to see that dominate. Last quarter, almost a 20% return, which is just, they continues to just be a rock star in the lineup. Towards the bottom of the page there, American Funds UPAC, which was previously called Euro-Pacific Growth. They just changed their name. You see the last quarter, they did well in the 29th percentile, that number in parentheses there. So in the top third of their peers, which is great. If you kind of look out farther, those other time periods, we're just really middle of the pack, high 50s, low 60s. So we're going to continue to monitor that, but we think that they'll be able to turn it around. We'll see. Going down on the next page, page 27, fixed income. And I think we don't talk about fixed income a lot. It's not as exciting, not as fun. But if you look out in our 3 and 5 year time periods, Dodge and Cox income in the 5th percentile is just, it's awesome. It's killing it. Doing what we would hope it would do. PIMCO income also in the top 30th, around the top 30th percentile in those 3 and 5 year time periods, and has been doing well. Both funds have been doing well recently. as well. So wanted to highlight that since it doesn't get a lot of love too often. Slide 28. You'll see Partners Group, we usually can't get returns in on time for this report because they're pretty lagged. But we ran the numbers as of March 31st, so as of last quarter end. And compared to their benchmark, they were up 1.3% and the benchmark was down 3.37%. So positive there. Going out to the 10-year number as of last quarter for Partners Group, it was returning a 10.83% return compared to its benchmark at a 6.5% return. So really strong, been really positive for the portfolio. So wanted to highlight that even though those numbers aren't quite in yet for this quarter. And then always want to talk about the total fund and look at those quarterly numbers. 5.97% quarterly return, which is very strong, and the year is definitely not over yet. Going out, I mean, in all these time periods, we're beating our 6% return in every single one of those. So really, really strong performance there. And this page 29 below breaks that down a little differently just so we can see calendar year returns. And you'll see really strong performance there as well. A tough 2022, as we kind of mentioned before, but, you know, really strong across the board. Any questions on investments, performance?
Just happy to see you.
Yeah. We are too.
I think we're, from all I can discern here, Jim, you might have even more, but input or history, but I think we're positioned for just about anything. I mean, coming through COVID and everything the way we did, pretty phenomenal.
Yeah, that's what we think too. I mean, ultimately it's diversification that's gonna smooth out our returns. So we, you know, even in 2022, I mean, it's the worst fixed income market ever, really bad equity market, and this portfolio was down 10, which is not great, but when the benchmarks are down, you know, 20, it's not horrible. But so yes, I think the moves that we've made, you know, we have infrastructure, we have hedge funds, we have private equity, we have private debt, a lot of diversification, international, US, again, just fixed income, a lot of things in a lot of different places.
Oh. Glad to have you.
Well, thank you. We're glad to be had.
Yeah. Any other questions or anything? Do we have any retirements this quarter?
Just one, Hope Jones was a deferred vested member and she started taking distributions last month.
She was no longer here. So
No. Yeah, deferred vested.
Okay, anybody got anything else?
I do have under board members' choice, there is a recognition ceremony for new and reappointed board members on August 18th at 7 p.m. here at the Civic Center. I will forward that email in case anyone wants to join. Thank you for your service.
Yes, thank you for your service.
Yes. Oh, with that, let's adjourn.
What? At 4:37?
Well, it's old line plans, fell into line, so we're gonna have to.
Yay, thanks everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.